I had never thought that holidays could change your life so drastically. Especially New Year's Eve, a time of magic when wishes sometimes come true in the most unexpected ways. When I accepted my friend's invitation, I imagined a cozy evening with familiar faces, champagne, tangerines, laughter, that light-hearted festive feeling. And that's exactly how it started. The house was filled with warmth, fairy lights twinkled softly, the table was overflowing with food, and the guests genuinely enjoyed the night. But my attention was immediately drawn to her, his stepmother. A woman who looked far too striking for a simple family gathering. High heels, a perfectly fitted dress, slow, almost graceful movements as she brought her glass to her lips. Her gaze, too intent, too observant, as if she was reading me without a single word. She paid attention to me. Not in an obvious way, but enough to make it impossible to ignore. A subtle smile every time I spoke, a barely noticeable touch when she handed me a glass. Her fingers lingered on my skin just a fraction longer than they should have. I tried to convince myself that it was all in my head. That the champagne was making me lightheaded, that the holiday was creating an illusion of something more. But with every passing minute, her gestures grew bolder, and my inner voice grew quieter. "Are you feeling warm?" she suddenly asked, leaning in closer, her voice softer than usual. Her proximity sent a shiver down my spine. "A little," I answered, surprised at the slight tremor in my own voice. "You know, New Year's Eve is the perfect time to make wishes come true." Her lips curled into a mysterious smile, and something dangerous flickered in her eyes. At that moment, I realized that the evening would no longer be just friendly. I'll take a short pause. Let me know in the comments where you're from and if you've ever experienced something similar. Have you ever had a moment when the line between friendly interaction and something more started to blur? I'd love to hear your stories. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next part. Now, I continue. When the clock struck midnight, the air filled with the clinking of glasses, laughter, and cheerful voices. Everyone was exchanging greetings, making toasts, someone turned on music, and the evening seemed to reach its liveliest moment. I raised my glass to my lips but barely had time to take a sip before I felt warm breath against my neck. "I hope you wished for something truly special." Her voice was barely audible, but I heard every word. I turned sharply. She was standing too close, closer than casual conversation allowed. There was something defiant in her eyes. Not towards me, but towards the situation itself. A brief moment, and then she stepped back, took a sip from her glass, acting as if nothing had happened. I froze, unsure how to react. My heart was beating faster than it should have. I glanced around, no one had noticed anything. My friend was chatting, laughing, and his stepmother acted like it had been just a fleeting moment. But for me, it wasn't just my imagination. Every movement of hers now seemed deliberate. When she passed by, her hand brushed against my waist. When we ended up close, her gaze lingered on me too long. I could feel her presence even when I wasn't looking. Suddenly, I needed air. I quietly stepped into the hallway, put on my coat, and stepped outside. The cold air stung my lungs, but in my head, that moment was still playing on repeat, her voice, her gaze. "Thinking about leaving?" A soft voice behind me. I flinched. She was standing in the doorway, not in a hurry to close the door behind her. "No. Just needed some air," I replied. She stepped outside, gently closing the door behind her, and approached me. Snow was falling slowly, thick flakes making the moment feel even more surreal. "You do realize that everything is different now, don't you?" Her voice was calm, but there was something hidden in it. I looked at her, unsure what to say. Everything had changed. The real question was, did I want to resist it? I woke up to bright light streaming through the curtains. My head was slightly dizzy, but not from champagne. From memories. It took a few seconds for everything to resurface, her gaze, her touch, the words whispered so softly they had turned my world upside down. I squeezed my eyes shut, as if that could erase what had happened. But there was nothing to erase. I felt someone's eyes on me. I opened mine, and met hers. She stood by the door, holding a cup of coffee, leaning casually against the frame. Calm, composed, as if the night hadn't changed a thing. "Good morning," her voice was soft, but there was something too knowing in it. "Morning," I said, sitting up in bed. I wanted to ask, what now? How was this supposed to work? Were we supposed to pretend nothing had happened? But she didn't give me time to think. "Your friend is already in the kitchen. He thinks you just needed extra sleep after the party. Come down when you're ready." Her lips curled into the faintest hint of a smile before she left the room, leaving me alone with my thoughts. My friend knew nothing. To him, it was just another New Year's celebration, fun and carefree. I heard his laughter from the kitchen, and somehow, that made everything even more unsettling. I glanced at my reflection in the mirror. There was not just exhaustion in my eyes. Something else. Something new. I walked downstairs, pretending everything was normal. That I didn't feel the tension in the air. That I wasn't replaying every second of that night. She met my gaze as I stepped into the kitchen, and I knew this was only the beginning. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments. Have you ever experienced a moment when everything suddenly changed, and it was impossible to just move on as if nothing happened? Your comments mean a lot to me, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss more thrilling stories. Wishing you a wonderful day. If you made it to the end, write in the comments, sometimes the lines blur.